All right, so we're going to be talking about Gaethje versus Khabib. Justin Gaethje versus Khabib. I get crucified every time I try to say his last name, but I'll give it a try. Nurmagomedov. I got it wrong again. Nurmagomedov. I think that's right. And guys,
Sounds
I
good
know
to
he's
me,
been
David.
champion for a while. I never can. What'd you say?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, what? Yeah, it sounds like a good
Listen,
name, doesn't
I
it?
wouldn't know the
Yeah,
difference. I wouldn't
yeah.
know. It's
So
not like it's Foreman or Christian.
no, yeah. So this is going to be a really interesting fight. Gaethje, his background, he was a wrestling state champion, and he took up MMA, and he's far more of a striker nowadays. He is known for being incredibly aggressive. His old style before he came to the UFC was he would just shell up in a high guard, and then just walk his opponents down. Just very straightforward stance, take a huge deal of punishment. The reason this is surprising is because it's MMA. So in boxing, you have the big gloves. If you're a smaller guy, then the gloves could actually cover like a good deal of your face, and you could just walk people down in a high guard. That's not so in MMA. So he would dispel a lot of the force of the punches, but he would end up taking a lot of punishment. He's known for devastating leg kicks, and just getting into close range and just destroying people. Really great at cutting off the ring. Khabib, on the other hand, is a wrestler through and through. All of his striking is meant to set up his wrestling. Once he gets you on the ground, and especially against the cage, he's really good. Not so like he can, but he's not so much good at single legs, at double legs, and just shooting at you. He's much better at using striking to close the distance, getting you in close, and then walking you to the cage. And once he has you up against the cage, he's completely changed the kind of meta of what you do with someone up against the cage. He takes away every base of support you have, every way you have of trying to stand up. He does not, and he doesn't have necessarily knockout power to finish it on the ground. I mean, he does, but it's not common. He'll just pound on you until you're ready to give up or the fight ends. So if you're in a championship fight with him, he could just have you on the ground almost the whole time. So that's 25 minutes of just a guy wailing on you pretty much. What makes this an interesting fight for me is that Gaethje usually comes in with the high guard and absorbing the punishment, but he's been much better the last few fights about using head movement and footwork and not absorbing so much punishment. He lost his first two fights in the UFC, right? So he came in, he was supposed to be like from this other organization, and he was supposed to be like this, he's going to knock everyone out. And then he had two of the bloodiest fights you've ever seen. Like you need to check them out. They were absolutely insane. And ended up losing both of them. And then he kind of went back, recalculated, and he still has the high guard. He still is able to use it and absorb punishment. But he's incorporating head movement and counters with them. He's incorporating everything he should be, and he's looking a lot better. The problem is he tends to stop takedowns by ducking low, right? So if you're going to shoot into a guy, right, you want your head by his hip, right? Now imagine
Right.
that guy who's about to shoot in on you, you just, instead of trying to like sprawl or get out of the way, you just duck down yourself. So it's basically like two bulls charging at each other, right? He stops takedown by kind of using his own head. It's not technically a headbutt, right? I mean, we're getting into a Vander Holyfield
Yeah,
like
type
tactics
stuff,
here.
right?
Yeah, it's not technically a headbutt. But it you will be running your own head into him if you do that. Khabib likes to throw a lot of knees and a lot of uppercuts because he doesn't want your base low. He wants to throw that uppercut and throw that knee so you straighten up, because it's much easier to take someone down and drive them to the cage when they straighten up. Now, if he tries to do that to Gaethje is one of the craziest guys. He'll just absorb knees on his guard. So if you could imagine someone's trying to knee you in the face, right? What would your natural
Mm-hmm.
be to that?
Yeah, you move out the way.
You move the hell out of the way,
You
right?
move
You
out the
straighten
way.
up.
That's what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Gaethje's just like, no, I'm just going to bring my elbows down and I'm going to take that knee on my guard. So I could see Gaethje landing some good counters and staying on his feet a lot longer than other guys have. It's a possibility. Not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it's a possibility. And of course, his wrestling could help him on the ground. That's been the case in a lot of other. That's been the case in a lot of other people who fought Khabib, and it didn't help him out too much. He's also a pretty competent striker himself. So I see Gaethje having a big chance here if he has the right game plan. Whether he will or not, or he just ends up on the ground getting beat up like all of other Khabib's competitors because he's undefeated at the time. That's something to be seen.
When I look at, it's funny you should say that, because when I look at Gaethje, right, there's two boxers that come to mind: Boom Boom Mancini and Vinny Pazienza, which means
I'm not too familiar with them actually.
Vinny Pazienza and Boom Boom Mancini, which means that they look like their faces look like they never met a punch they didn't like. Okay.
Just the flat nose, kind of like looks like their skull's been slowly caved in.
Just the flat nose.
Yeah.
So when you see him, but it's like you're going to get some action, because he's going to bring it to you, and you can hit me and do all this thing, but I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you. Whatever it is, you can do that. So that's what I see about him, and that's probably typical, I guess, in the American MMA fighter. I don't know, because I don't think that they've been as skilled as some of the fighters from across the water. I may be wrong about this. I don't know, but I know
it's not as typical of MMA
like
fighters because you don't have the gloves, so you can't. Most people could not take that amount of punishment, so they're not as aggressive as this guy who's crazy. He's like the Tasmanian devil.
Guy is.
Yeah.
Well, that's Benny Pazienza's name, the Tasmanian devil. That was his nickname.
Are you kidding me?
I
wonder if that was in my subconscious or something, because I just said I'm not familiar with that guy. No, that's crazy.
It was Benny Pazienza, the Tasmanian devil. That was his nickname, because he was willing to come in and chew you up. But you better be ready for that if you're going to survive. And Boom Boom Mancini was kind of the same way. They didn't have the best boxing skills, but boy, you found very few that was tougher than they were. And you had to be the idea. You had to be, and I've heard many fighters tell me, say, you can be better a boxer and everything else than this guy or what you're participating in against, but you better be in shape, because some guys are prone to just take a butt kicking before they come and get you. So that's what's going to be. That's what's going to be interesting. Exactly what I thought about.
People get scared of Khabib. They get paralyzed. I don't think this guy's going to get paralyzed.
Well, see, but this is the thing about Khabib, and reading about him and the little video I've had a chance to really review on him. When I started hearing guys talk about retirement, and Dana is saying, well, I got a special surprise for you after this match. It's almost as if they're expecting him not to win this match. Now, is this the type of fighter that Gaethje could be to retire him? He has wins over McGregor, you says, and
everyone. He has wins. He has wins over so many skilled fighters. It's ridiculous.
So many guys, right? So you have to almost think that when you start those retirement words always do something to a boxer, to any fighter, any athlete, because that means that that maybe this may be the night that I just don't have it anymore, and I don't want to do it after this. And when you start hearing Dana, I got special things for you. Is it a fight? Is there a bigger fight on the horizon after this? Are you going to fight the heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury? I mean, what's bigger? I'm trying to think, where is he going with this thing? So that's what that's what I think about. In reading him. So
you think he might walk in having already mentally checked out, and because of that, maybe hasn't put in the training, or maybe he's realized that he has issues with, like, I don't know, say like maybe injuries that have been nagging for years, or just feels himself slowing down.
He lost his father also. That could be those things, that inspiration. I don't know if that was true or not, if that was his, but that could be part of his inspiration. It was his dad. His dad's gone now. So you start thinking about the real part of life, and that's you know, that's just the life of an athlete, David.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Some
Especially
people
a
it lights a
combat
fire
athlete.
under them, and then some people it's like not. It drains them. So we'll see what happens. Either way, I think it's going to be a really interesting fight. It's going to be full of action regardless. So I invite everyone to tune in. It's this month. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, it was the 24th of October, correct?
Correct, sir. Yes.
Good fight night. Good fight night. Bob Evans said something that's just made sense, and I've been saying this for the longest. At the end of 2000, pay-per-view basically just died. HBO got out of the game, not because they were losing money, because they weren't. They're a subscription-based company that provides movies and everything else. They make tons of money a month. Whether you watch a boxing match or nothing else, it didn't matter. But they had nothing else to promote. And that's why they got out of the game. Oscar was gone. They had lost Floyd for what he was. He was out of the door. They saw Manny aging. There weren't many guys to fight. Canelo,
which is sad because HBO has always been my favorite when it comes to boxing. Yeah,
and
very professional, always on their game, put together great shows. Is very sad they left.
And they actually made a contributing budget anywhere from 15 to 20, sometimes 25% of their budget went into boxing, which means that, and the reason they did that, starting back in '73, which was the fight with George and Joe Frazier, was the first actually boxing match that they actually did in the Sunshine Showdown. That's a mouthful. Sunshine Showdown in Jamaica, right? That was their first into the boxing end. But then a few years later, it became part of their programming. But they built stars, and this is and you got to look at it. In the '80s, you had a young Mike Tyson. You had that whole '84 Olympic team, basically Whitaker, Meldrick, even Briggs, even though he might have been the weakest.
Here's the thing, though. Why were they so good at building these guys up and getting awareness out to the public and let everyone knowing that a fight was coming, as opposed to all these guys now who charge $75, and then it seems like people know when the Lakers are playing. People know. When their baseball team is playing, nobody knows about boxers matches coming up, even if they're from the same city as those boxers. And it's really true. So why did HBO do such a good job, whereas now they're just terrible at it?
There were two things, David. USA Boxing, NBC Television, ABC, and CBS Sports. They carried boxing. Now what they did was they carried the up and coming boxer, right? So Sugar Ray Leonard, first time out the gate, bam, he's on CBS. A young George Foreman, even back in 1968, 69. Evander Holyfield, if you remember that night, Evander Holyfield, Pernell Whitaker, Meldrick Taylor, Terrell Biggs, and Virgil Hill. Those kids made their pro debut on ABC television, free television. Now, so what's happened is people saying, whoa, that's the '84 Olympic team. So people start watching for these guys. Then next comes USA Television. USA with their weekly in different locations, like you said. David's gonna fight at home next week. It's gonna be on USA TV. So everybody in your hometown is gonna come out and watch David, because why? David, yes, but USA Television. So now HBO is saying, they're developing the guys we're going to need. I could almost say basically that was the minor league of television for boxing. USA TV was.
So the guys had time to build up a reputation and get the awareness out first for free. And then you're invested in the fighters. And once you're invested and you see what they could do, it's like, hell yeah, I want to watch Sugar Ray Leonard. Did you see what he did the last guy?
Yes, I want to watch Sugar on HBO cable. That's right. Oh, we want to see this. And HBO did the things that ABC did. They introduced the backlot stories on these guys. So now here's a guy like a young Sugar Ray Leonard, or Pernell Whitaker, Oscar De La. Well, before Oscar, but Oscar De La. I'll use him in that because he fits in that whole thing. But all these guys now, the backstory you know about. Guess what now? They're on HBO television. And people were like, whoa, you fight on HBO. That was a thing. But the promotions had been done by the then promoter, the networks, I should say, in USA. And every week you seen somebody on USA television. Now, all of a sudden, you saw his first 12 or 13 fights. Now you can't see him anymore really for free, but you got, HBO is not free. Subscription television, but it's 13, I don't know what it's costing, about 13, 14 bucks a month. At that time, you only had one HBO, basically. So you knew on Saturday nights, you were going to see somebody, a name.
So it could be it could be a tradition too. Every Saturday night, your buddies come over and you watch this for free.
Yes, it became
that sounds like heaven to me.
I mean, for us, it does. Why? Because it's like every week you didn't have to worry about who's fighting. Holyfield is fighting here. Pernell is fighting there.
Yeah, who do I need to pay this time? Because sign in, go through the whole thing. Yeah.
Don King came in with Mike Tyson to HBO right first, and Don had this thing, but he got the old things. The best quote from a movie I guess I ever seen was one Clint Eastwood made. He said, "Greed buries more people than a shovel ever will." See,
I like that one. That's a good one.
I mean, Don got to the point that he says, okay, Mike Tyson is this guy, everybody, and ABC had used Mike Tyson. If you look at it early on, his fights was 1-round fights, but 2-round, but that's what made it exciting. They had used it. You saw him on TV.
But people got mad when they had to pay for it though. Because they pay for a fight and then Mike could knock him out in 30 seconds. They're like, what the heck was that? That was weeks of buildup.
But you know what, David? It was probably, and I talked about this before, but it was probably the only time, after Mike did this a few times, people got to the point they wanted to see it. It wasn't about who Mike Tyson was fighting. It was how long was the fight going to last.
20 seconds or 30 seconds.
20 seconds, 1 minute. I mean, I told people I was at most of his bigger fights. Don't get me wrong. But there were times when if I didn't go to see somebody like a Carter Troop Williams, something like that, I might say, like going for that's no big deal. But if you lined up to see, and I just used Carl, could have been anybody, guys. So I'm not, it's not disparaging on Carl. But I mean, but what happened was people set up parties and you get to neighborhoods and cars are parked all down the street. It's a Mike Tyson fight. You've ordered 300 pizzas. The fight starts and bang, bang, it's gone. Oh, it's over. Now you stuck with a bunch of pizzas. Everybody's gone home. But people look forward to that. And then even after Tyson, you had Holyfield, right? You had the little guys, the Whitakers, the Chavezes, the Chavez, I'm trying to think of many of them, the Arguellos. Aaron Pryor never really got a real chance to fight on there, but he's one of the exciting guys. Then you came in with Tommy Hearns, Ray Leonard. Then there was a plethora of these guys. And then George comes along with his backstory, 35-year-old guy, 38-year-old guy. Is he going to do it? So they became, the thing was human drama.
All the backstories you see nowadays it really comes in the form of drama. It's fighters versus other fighters, and it's all on Twitter. So rather than hearing for like seeing them fight for free, growing that kind of relationship of watching over several fights, seeing them progress, hearing their backstory and what they went through and how they may be similar to you. Instead, fighters are trying to just get attention by saying the nastiest things they can to another big fighter on Twitter.
You can, yes.
Yeah.
Or they talk about their girlfriends. That's just like in the early 80s and 90s, the hip hoppers, that's what they did. See, they're like, because they're like, oh, I did your girlfriend. I mean, they wrote songs or the
Tupac yeah. Insult their family, insult their dads, insult their coach, insult anyone you can. Yeah.
Yeah, because the idea is that people say, oh, God, did you hear that record? So these guys, when you look at Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, I tell them we got more champions on there than we do in the ring. I mean, because these guys, that's what they are. You're the middleweight champion of Facebook.
Their time on, yeah.
But in Charlo's case and Jamel and Jamal, and I know we're gonna break down the next one, but I'm telling you, in that particular fight, the buildup was hard to do. Darian, whatever you said, we're going to be mispronouncing his name. I knew I was. But the thing about it is, had he won any one of those two fights he lost to, I think he lost to Triple G, and he lost to Jacobs, I think it was. Bad decision. But the difference would have been, had he won those fights, just maybe, you can sell the public the $75 because he's an undefeated guy, an international fighter. But now here you are sitting with a guy that's lost a couple of times, a guy that's, like you said, full of drama in the Jamal brothers. Because you see them on Twitter, they're getting cars and they're showing their house and they're doing all those kind of crazy things. That means absolutely. In this day and time, people don't want to hear it, first of all. You know, if you turn on something and the guys,
it definitely doesn't make you sympathetic to them at all.
Not at all. You have to,
which they might have like a hard upbringing or something, but if they do, I don't know.
They're from Houston. All I know, they're from Houston, and I really started hearing about them. Derek James, who's a guy who fought for me many times, a good friend of mine, and he was training. I think he was training Errol Spence first, and then Ryan Shields, another good friend of mine. And they start training. I know more about them. I heard more about them than I did than the two twins. Okay, then it became a novelty, as you said, the two twins. But the problem is, they've yet to have they've yet to have that real signature fight. And the reason has been, and I don't know, do you blame? A guy asked me the other day, he said, "Well, who do you have to blame for not having A fight B, right?" And I say, sometimes the managers or the administrators of these guys, if they have them, they have to be careful, because the idea is that you don't want to get your golden goose knocked out.
We're gonna talk about that later. So let's save that for later.
All right, we'll hold back on. So let's stay on it. But anyway, so what happens is, now with these guys, now I don't know how true this is, but I've heard that they did maybe between 50, 60, maybe 90,000 homes. That's nothing. I'm sorry.
No, it's nothing compared to what it could be, for sure. If they gave a reasonable price, they would have made more money.
They would have. You can imagine those numbers could have been doubled.
I know. Don't get me wrong. It was a great fight. It just wasn't a fight that was worth $75.
No, no, of course not.
Yeah.
What they trying to say, you got 5 title fights in one night. Yeah, right. Okay. But 3 of the guys nobody knew about.
That's not hard to do. That's not hard to do, though, when you have like 50 belts.
Titles. Yeah, right.
When you have 50 belts and like 200 weight divisions, I swear to God, this guy's 156 fighting at 158. Can he make it? Can he do it?
Can he do it?
Yeah. Just shut up with it.
I heard Floyd Mayweather say that, I fought more world champions than Rocky Marciano, than Muhammad Ali, than this guy and that guy. But well, what the heck, Floyd? You got 35 champions in one division. Of course you could have. You fought the lightweight champion of the IBO, the WBF, the WBK, and all that. Yeah, you did. But that's not the thing. Yeah, you did a great job of doing that.
It's got to be so easy to create a boxing organization. I don't know everything that's involved in it, but it's got to be like getting your driver's license or something. You know,
it is.
It seems like everyone can make one if they want to pretty easily.